The anime started with Taiyou Asano, a high school student, when he lost his entire family in a car crash. He was the only survivor, and as he sat at his family's funeral, he wondered how one realizes the true importance of something only after one loses it. He looks at his childhood friend Mutsumi Yozakura, crying, and questions himself if he ever bonded with someone or something precious to him, wouldn't he just lose it? Suddenly the image of Mutsumi dying scares him. She is the only real bond he has left, and he can't bear the thought of losing her. As he struggles to hold back tears, Mutsumi looks at him and realizes he's afraid. She holds his hand and assures him she isn't going anywhere. After the accident, Taiyou becomes distant from his classmates. He would often keep to himself, and their mere presence would startle him. Even when they tried to invite him to a soccer practice match, a study group, or karaoke after school, he would turn them down. Today is their 10th time trying to invite him to join them, and Taiyou has turned them down like a girl who is playing hard to get. His friends remind him that it has been over a month that they've ended up in the same class, but it is a shame they haven't hung out as old times. During this ordeal, one of the friends brings their attention to Taiyou, who has become a nervous wreck and is literally foaming at the mouth. He's seconds away from blacking out, which is an indication that his friends need to back off. They walk away, but still determined to get him to say yes, they decide to try again the next day. Taiyou feels bad for turning them down because he doesn't hate them or anything. In fact, he's happy they asked him, but he has his own reasons. Just then, Mutsumi arrives and asks if he rejected his friends again. Surprisingly, Taiyou can easily talk to her without having panic attacks. Since Taiyou is always working, he doesn't have the time to prepare food for himself. So Mutsumi often prepares his lunch and delivers it with a warning against leaving out his veggies. She laments Taiyou's situation and his unwillingness to observe social etiquette like any average mom would. Taiyou is quick to remind her that she shouldn't be talking like that since she too rejected a boy. Despite him being smart, good-looking, and captain of the soccer team, Mutsumi is quick to brush it off and advises him that he needs to move on or his parents watching from heaven will be sad. She opens the lunch and tries to feed him an egg roll, but before Taiyou can eat it, their teacher, Mr. Harukawa, with his overzealous personality, snatches the bite and praises its taste, almost experiencing a foodgasm. Mutsumi looks annoyed and asks him why he's there when he was supposed to be on business for an overseas lecture. Harukawa smugly replies that he missed her food so much that he rescheduled and decided to come home early. Talk about overbearing, he doesn't stop there, praising Mutsumi's white hair streak and saying that he would want to rub his cheek against her. He only stops after Mutsumi threatens to report him for harassment. Even then, he looks smug and turns to Taiyou and asks him to see him in his office after school, which makes Taiyou nervous, but Mutsumi stays quiet. After school is over, Taiyou heads to the vice principal's office where he has a very awkward tea party with Harukawa, who doesn't understand the concept of personal space. He further creates a questionable image of himself when he shows Taiyou his collection of secret shorts of Mutsumi on his phone. While he flaunts his favorite picture of Mutsumi, Taiyou can't help but think what a pervert Harukawa is and how he should definitely report him. But Taiyou starts panicking when Harukawa starts showing him pictures of Mutsumi from when she was little. It takes a few seconds to get through Taiyou's thick head. How did the teacher land up with Mutsumi's childhood pictures? Harukawa declares that he has been protecting Mutsumi from all the undesirable men. He mentions the third-year kid who recently confessed to Mutsumi and how he graciously asked him to stay away from Mutsumi, and the kid agreed. And by graciously he means covering the kid's eyes so he doesn't recognize his teacher and beating the shit out of him. Taiyou suddenly stiffens as he realizes what a dangerous man Harukawa is. As expected, Harukawa brings out his blade and points it at Taiyou just because he's envious of their friendship. Taiyou sweats profusely and realizes he can't move. He is scared that Mutsumi might be in danger until he hears Harukawa refer to her as his kid sister. But before his brotherly love turns creepy and dangerous for Taiyou, a silver-haired woman dressed as a doll suddenly appears at the window and rescues Taiyou using blinding lights. When Taiyou opens his eyes, he finds several faces staring at him. Mutsumi is first to greet him, but when he realizes he doesn't recognize the faces or the place, he almost loses it. Pulling himself far away from them, he asks who they are. Mutsumi calmly explains that the people there are her siblings. The silver-haired woman who rescued Taiyou is Mutsumi's elder sister, Futaba. She introduces her elder brother Shinzo, who is tech-savvy. Elder sister Shion, a pro-gamer, cool Kingdo, a very shy but super smart Nanao, and their guard dog Goliath, who honestly looks like a black cat. She reveals they are a family of spies. Now that she has told him the secret about her family, which she had to hide for more than 10 years, she feels relieved. However, Taiyou turns jittery because of information overload because who he thought was a family of greengrocers who dealt with eggplants and radishes actually dealt with guns and intel. Taiyou doesn't believe a word Mutsumi just said and thinking it is a prank, he picks up one of Shinzo's guns and air fires it, only to scare himself even more. As freelancer spies, their ratings are pretty good. Finally, they have their eldest brother Kyouichirou, who turns out to be Harukawa. He is basically a star among spies and plays an important role in boosting their popularity. He may be a pervert, but in terms of combat power and intelligence, he's the best spy in their family. Taiyou, however, is confused and questions why was he then Kyouichirou's target. The family clarifies that they got a tip that Mutsumi's life was in danger, someone was plotting to take her life. Futaba explains that during an incident years ago, Mutsumi suffered a near-fatal injury because of Kyouichirou. The white hair streak Mutsumi supports is the remnant of the stress from that accident. Ever since that day, Kyouichirou's guilt has made him obsessed over Mutsumi to an abnormal degree, which explains why he changed his name and took a job at her school to keep vigilance on her, but his obsession is such that he interferes with everything from her daily life to her personal decisions. A Mutsumi-protecting monster who has been giving Taiyou a pass despite his hatred towards Taiyou, but now he has more than enough reason to eliminate Taiyou after he received the tip. Futaba apologizes to Taiyou about her idiot brother. Suddenly the alarm starts blaring indicating that Kyouichirou is home. The siblings assure Taiyou that he is safest with them and have set traps all the way from the entrance to the living room where they gathered. The siblings are prepared and are ready to give their moron of a brother a beat down, even though they have only a 30% chance of succeeding, a 42% chance of one of them needing 6 months of recovery, and a 25% chance of the house burning down. Seeing Taiyou hesitate, Futaba reveals the only way he can survive is by marrying Mutsumi. According to the peace in the household treaty, no family member is allowed to harm the other family member. To marry, they will just have to exchange the family's cherry blossom ring, which every family member wears. The ring is double-banded, and the moment one gives the half to their spouse, their marriage becomes official. This way they can save Taiyou from Kyouichirou's wrath, and it might serve as an opportunity for Kyouichirou to get over his sister fetish. Taiyou struggles with the decision, so Mutsumi steps in and says she can't marry Taiyou because he has just lost his family and is still struggling to bring his life back on track. She feels that casually asking Taiyou to join their family will be cruel to him. Futaba apologizes for being insensitive, and they prepare to take care of the situation. When Kyouichirou casually complains about being left out, everybody gets on edge as no one sensed his arrival. Futaba warns Kyouichirou to stay away from Taiyou, but Kyouichirou declares war and says he won't back off until Taiyou is proven innocent. Futaba has had enough, and she takes Kyouichirou by his tie and swings him like a lasso before smashing him on the couch. Nanao and Shinzo gang up on Kyouichirou, but Kyouichirou is just too powerful, and with a smile he says he doesn't have time, so he'll play with them some other time. In no time he wards off their attacks and asks them to hand over Taiyou, threatening to tear down the house using his razor-sharp thread-like weapon, Steel Spider. While Kingo takes Taiyou and Mutsumi to safety, Futaba attacks Kyouichirou with her wind attack, but Kyouichirou has her tied in his Steel Spider before she realizes it. Next, Shion tries to stall Kyouichirou using gaming attacks and flying orbs that start shooting at Kyouichirou. Meanwhile, Kingo and Mutsumi take Taiyou to a hidden chamber and Kingo takes off his jacket. Before closing the door, Mutsumi smiles and assures him that she will not go anywhere. Kyouichirou soon arrives and sees right through Mutsumi's disguise, reminding her she still needs to work on her technique. Taiyou sees everything from his hidden chamber, feeling helpless. Mutsumi tries to talk Kyouichirou into giving up his bloodthirst, to which Kyouichirou agrees and promises not to do anything to Taiyou, but in exchange, he wants Mutsumi to stay in the house to avoid attracting any more trouble. He also forbids her from using the internet, returning to school, seeing her friends, and romance. He wants to take all the fun out of her life and make her miserable in the name of protection. Kyouichirou walks closer to hug Mutsumi, and even as the blade she's holding pierces his flesh, he doesn't flinch. Mutsumi has no choice but to agree, and as soon as she does, Taiyou comes out of the chamber and demands that Kyouichirou let Mutsumi go, but Kyouichirou just ignores him. Taiyou understands Kyouichirou must also be afraid to lose the person he loves, but he is also aware that it shouldn't lead to the person he loves fearing him the most, so he offers Mutsumi to go ahead with the first plan Futaba gave them. He feels he can embrace it, as Mutsumi promised she won't go anywhere, which gives him the confidence to trust again. Mutsumi agrees and detaches the upper band from her ring to throw it to Taiyou, but before he can catch it, Kyouichirou uses his threads to prevent it from reaching Taiyou. But Taiyou breaks free from the steel threads and grabs the ring, even though it cuts his hand in several places because he realizes it is time for him to pay back his best friend, who has always protected a hopeless wreck like him. So from now on, he promises to protect Mutsumi as he wears the bloodied ring and calls Kyouichirou bro. Mutsumi runs to hug Taiyou, and the siblings arrive right on time to cheer their union. Futaba marks a dumbfounded Kyouichirou because now it has come down to him to teach Taiyou what it means to protect Mutsumi. The story continues. We see Taiyou returns home at night and stares at his ring, contemplating whether it was the right choice as he is now unofficially married to Mutsumi. Earlier that night, as Taiyou is about to leave the Yozakura residence as the battle is over, Mutsumi offers to escort him because it can be dangerous for a frail, weak loser like him to walk back home all alone, but Taiyou claims that he will be fine by himself and redirects her attention towards Hirukawa, asking them what he will be doing now that his beloved sister is married to someone else. Hirukawa, whose soul has left his body, has become a laughingstock for the other members of the family. Futaba states that bro here is just being dramatic and tells Taiyou to not worry for him as it is better for him to get rid of his sister complex. Before letting Taiyou go, Mutsumi holds his hand and thanks him for choosing her to be his life partner. The next morning, Taiyou wakes up to find Hirukawa right on top of him, holding a knife and moments away from stabbing him. This complete psychopath wishes Taiyou a very good morning and then stabs between his legs, explaining that this gesture is just the Yozakura family's traditional wake-up call. But Taiyou clearly knows that Hirukawa still wants to take his life, so he reminds him that he can no longer harm him, since they now belong in the same family. Hirukawa clarifies his intentions, stating that he wants to make Taiyou go through a brutal training session in order to turn him into a spy just like the other members of the Yozakura family. Hirukawa points out the first mistake that Taiyou made as an unofficial spy, which was not keeping an eye around him while he was asleep. In any case, he tells Taiyou that they will start their morning by exercising in the Yozakura family's traditional way, indicating that this psycho is about to torture the poor fellow. Before Taiyou can even move a muscle and say no to that, Hirukawa grabs him using his specialized spider strings and gets ready to make him dance like a puppet. Meanwhile, Mutsumi, who also reveals having come to Taiyou's house, makes breakfast for him, fulfilling her duties as his new wife, when suddenly she hears her husband screaming in pain upstairs. As she rushes there, assuming that Taiyou had a bad dream, she instead finds him being tortured by her psycho brother, who has been using his spider strings to bend and stretch the poor lad bodies. Mutsumi asks for an explanation from her brother, and in response, he simply tells her that they are just exercising to keep themselves fit. He notices that Mutsumi has made a lunch box for her new husband, and he requests that she give it to him instead. Mutsumi, who has had enough of Hirukawa shenanigans, strictly tells him to stop it as they are getting late for school. Speaking of which, Hirukawa notices that they are running out of time, so he resorts to taking desperate measures, carries Mutsumi on his arms while holding Taiyou using his steel strings, and jumps out of the window like a complete madman. As he does so, a time bomb that was set inside the house sets off, causing Taiyou's entire house to explode. Taiyou, who is confused as to what just happened and why his house just got destroyed, asks for an explanation. But instead of giving him a straightforward explanation, Hirukawa first explains to him what the Yozakura family's true mission is. Taiyou, who clearly has no clue whatsoever as to what Hirukawa is saying, learns that protecting Mutsumi is the main mission in their family because she is the only one who is currently targeted. This indicates that perhaps that bomb was set by that anonymous person who had wanted to bring harm to Mutsumi. Anyway, the three head off to their school, and on their way inside Hirukawa's limousine, Hirukawa receives a report from his brother Shinzo, the trash can head, who tells him that he has found a certain piece in the rubble of Taiyou's house, which he has determined to be a fragment of the time bomb that was set inside the kitchen where Mutsumi was cooking Taiyou's school meal. Taiyou initially doesn't understand why his house was targeted, but as Hirukawa explains that the mysterious assailant actually targeted Mutsumi, he realizes that someone with greater power is behind the attack. Hirukawa tells both of them that the news of the time bomb exploding will surely spread in the spy industry, and then Taiyou and Mutsumi's marital relationship will become public information. Hirukawa realizes that perhaps on spy Twitter, where he yesterday posted about his little sister getting married to a red-headed loser, in order to make sure everyone knows that Mutsumi is taken, he got the attention of Mutsumi's mysterious attacker who placed the bomb in the kitchen of Taiyou's house today. Seeing Taiyou still confused about the situation, Hirukawa explains that Mutsumi is only being targeted because she is the 10th and current head leader of the Yozakura family. Yozakura family lineage can be traced back to when ninjas still existed a long time ago. From then on, this family produced many generational talents who served their country with their lives and protected it at all costs. Although all of the members of this family are born blessed with some superpowers, once in a generation, an ordinary person is born who is chosen to be the head of the family. Although the Yozakura head doesn't possess any powers, their offspring once again attain superhuman powers, and are able to inherit a lot of talents from the Yozakura genes running inside their cells, because it's the Yozakura family's duty to make new offspring and pass down the talents to the next generation. They are protected by all of the other Yozakura family members. Basically, Mutsumi is the current family head now because she possesses no special talents, which explains why she pointed a gun at her brother earlier instead of using superpowers like the other siblings. Anyway, Hirukawa makes it clear that he or any other siblings of her don't really care about Mutsumi's lineage, since someone from outside their family will be the father to her children. What Hirukawa wants for Mutsumi is that she gets to live her own life happily because she is the finest girl to have ever existed. As his sister complex gets triggered again, he turns to Taiyou, cursing him for getting a girl who is way out of his league. Suddenly, a group of men following Hirukawa's limo attack them, firing gunshots at them, causing Taiyou to panicking. Hirukawa tells him to remain calm as their car is fully bulletproof and he enjoys his tea peacefully, while Havoc is wreaking havoc outside. Goliath the dog, who reveals to be the one to drive their limo, gets into fast and furious mode, while on the other hand Hirukawa casually destroys all of the enemy vehicles along with the enemies by blowing them up. As Taiyou is now a member of the Yozakura family, Hirukawa now tells him once again that along with the other members, Taiyou will also have to take it upon himself to protect Mutsumi from all enemies. However, Taiyou, who is just a weak high schooler, wonders how he is going to do so. Hirukawa gives him a gun, assigning him his first mission and telling him to protect Mutsumi from assassins for the rest of the day. Later at school, Taiyou begins his bodyguard duties and checks on every corner of the place to see if there are any hidden cameras, GPS sensors, or bombs set by assassins. Taiyou states that he has given permission to eliminate any enemies who dare harm Mutsumi and shows him the prime suspect of today named Tamaya, who is a professional bomber and very conveniently has his email saved as bombbomb@gmail.com. Apparently Mr. Bomb is severely addicted to social media and tends to post about his targets on spiked Twitter before attacking them. So getting that crucial information, Taiyou researches on social media with the help of Hirukawa and finds out that Mr. Bomb has set up a total of 3 bombs to take down Mutsumi. One exploded in Taiyou's house, but the other two's location is still unknown. With the task at hand to find the hidden bomb, Taiyou loses all attention in his class and begins to eavesdrop on all the students' conversations, hoping to get some clues as to where the second bomb is. As the bomber posts the status, saying that he has set up the second bomb in place, Taiyou panics and runs back to school, where he sees a mysterious figure going inside the infirmary. However, the nurse doesn't let him enter the place, and after forcing him to go away, she gives off an evil smile indicating that she is a villain. Meanwhile, Mutsumi messes around and gossips with her friends about UFOs, giants, and witches, while on the other hand, Taiyou gets the news that the third and final bomb has been set up as well, meaning that both bombs are hidden at the school since Mutsumi is currently there. Taiyou, who has for the first time paid attention to Mutsumi's behavior, while keeping an eye on her all day, has noticed that she doesn't eat the food that her friends gift her right away. She always tries to be with someone as if she is scared to be alone, and most importantly, she truly cherishes all of the moments being with her friends. Taiyou's 3 old classmates come to annoy him, and as they try to talk with him, the antisocial loser becomes nervous again and completely loses control of himself. As he is rendered unconscious, Mutsumi takes him to the vice principal's office as no one would disturb them there and takes care of him till he wakes up. Being embarrassed at himself for fainting like that, Taiyou wonders if he is even worthy to be besides someone as important as Mutsumi. He also feels upset because all this time he had known nothing about Mutsumi, even though she was his only childhood friend. Taiyou's negative thoughts continue to make him feel guilty and selfish. It makes Mutsumi mad as she doesn't want her newlywed husband to be a depressed loser. She tells him not to worry about their marriage too much, as there is a high possibility that she will die at any point in the future, leaving him as a widow. She also lightens up his mood, revealing to him that she has always wanted him to be her husband and thanking him for marrying her. At that moment, Taiyou realizes how great of a person Mutsumi is once again, but as he looks at her, he finds the time bomb hidden behind the lights, which is about to set off in under 2 seconds. As the room gets exploded, the trash can head Nanao and the cat boy Kingo, who is disguising himself as the nurse, revealed that they have already figured out who the bomber is, but they wait it out for now as they want to see whether Taiyou is truly worthy and if he actually cares for Mutsumi. Meanwhile, Taiyou, who has successfully protected Mutsumi from the bomb explosion by hiding under a cabinet, figures out that the third and final bomb has been planted on his body by the bomber during their gym class. As the bomb is about to explode, he chooses to sacrifice himself by jumping off the building in order to keep Mutsumi unharmed. His self-sacrifice satisfies Hirukawa, who has been observing everything, so he saves the boy, defuses the bomb, and congratulates him for doing a good job on his first day as Mutsumi's official protector. Now that the mission is done, Kingo, Nanai and Shinzo revealed that they have already captured the bomber and punished him duly by sending him flying into the sky along with the third bomb, blowing him up nothingness. After school, Taiyou packs up his stuff as he no longer has a home and moves in with Mutsumi at her house. Even though Hirukawa is completely against it, as Hirukawa tries to stop Taiyou from entering their premises, Mutsumi tells him that he doesn't get to have a say in any of it and hugs Taiyou in front of him, making him remember that the two high schoolers are indeed married now, hence they can stay together. The story continues. In a dream, Taiyou sees himself on a blood-reeked battlefield where a bulky bald man has taken Mutsumi a hostage. That bald man mocks Taiyou for being so weak that he can't even protect one woman, calling him pathetic. Taiyou, who doesn't want Mutsumi to die, holds out his hand to her but still fails to save her, which disrupts his dream, causing him to wake up from the nightmare, realizing that it was just his brain playing with his emotions. Taiyou gets relieved, steps out of bed and accidentally steps on top of the sleeping poor Goliath. As Goliath teaches Taiyou a good lesson for ruining his sleep, Taiyou screams in pain, which reaches all of the members of the Yozakura family, who have already woken up and are busy doing their own things. Shion is busy scrolling social media, Shinzo and Nanao are holding each other tightly because of the sudden scream of Taiyou, and the big sister Futaba is eating her meal like the only normal child. On the other hand, Mutsumi is inside the kitchen, most probably preparing food for her husband, and she too is shocked by the Taiyou's screams. She heads to his room and finding out that Goliath has bit him on his hands, she treats his wounds and patches them up with bandages. Apologizing to him for causing him trouble on the very first day of his stay here, she tells Taiyou why Goliath was just below his bed, explaining that she was the one who had asked Goliath to stay there so that he could guard him in his sleep just in case anything unfortunate were to happen. There is also the possibility that her big brother, Hirukawa, would attack him again in his sleep, and that is also why she told Goliath to be there in order to prevent another assault from happen, but because Goliath himself ended up becoming the one to assault Taiyou. Mutsumi feels really disappointed in herself and Goliath, telling him that he shouldn't attack Taiyou from now on. Goliath shows that he still has some grudges towards Taiyou, even after having bitten his arm, but still promises not to hurt him just for Mutsumi's sake, whom he truly adores. Shortly after, Taiyou goes to the eldest sister Futaba's room, where Futaba is knitting a sweater peacefully and gets down on his knees, asking her for a favor. Bro, who no longer wants to be a weak antisocial loser, begs Futaba to help him become stronger, telling her that if he makes one wrong move, there is a chance that his beloved Mutsumi will be snatched away from him. Wanting to become strong in order to protect Mutsumi, Taiyou once again begs Futaba to help him. So, she gets up, grabs him by his collar, and starts swinging from all directions, showcasing how powerful she is. She tells him that she is no longer born gifted with overpowering strengths, but also knows Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu, which took her 3 years to learn. So, she doesn't think there is a cheat code to become strong instantly, because even a superhuman like her needed almost 3 years to master 2 fighting techniques, but seeing Taiyou's unwavering will to protect Mutsumi, Futaba decides to teach him their all-out training method, but with the condition that Taiyou will have to live in this mansion for at least 1 month before he wants to go through the all-out training method. Taiyou agrees to the condition without any hesitation, but as he is about to leave, he accidentally sets foot into a trap and almost falls into a pit full of deadly spikes. Futaba informs him that similar trips have been set up all over the mansion for Taiyou's spy training. The next morning, an alarm clock gets triggered and rings a bell, but he keeps ignoring the alarm, which results in the alarm exploding. He manages to run away from the room just in time, before everything collapses on top of him. But because of the smoke in the air caused by the explosion, he stops to take a breather when he accidentally triggers another trap, which brings out 2 flame powers. brothers is literally gaslighting himself. Anyway, after being roasted by the flamethrowers, Taiyou manages to reach downstairs without dying and joins the others for breakfast. Mutsumi begins to worry for Taiyou, as she isn't sure if her weak husband will be able to survive here at all, knowing that his death is imminent. Mutsumi's brother, who identifies as a cat, offers to issue a funeral for him in advance. But jokes aside, Taiyou wonders how Mutsumi, who is a normal person like him and possesses no skills, is living here without being hurt. Mutsumi explains that the traps that are set around the mansion don't active for her, revealing that these traps can be set in a way so that if specific people touch them, they won't get triggered. Apparently all of the traps are controlled by their house's computer, so according to Shion's, if Taiyou clears all of the traps around the house set by the computer, he will become accepted as an official member of the Yozakura family. However, it apparently takes almost 2 years for a normal person to be able to clear all of the traps, so Taiyou forgets about it and focuses on eating his meal instead, when he suddenly gets cramps in his stomach. As he starts to cower in pain, Shion reveals that their meals are normally mixed with a tad bit of poison, which helps them gain resistance to poison. As the poison starts acting like a laxative, Taiyou rushes to the washroom and finds the door to be locked with a high-security passcode system. Hirakawa passes him by but doesn't help him at all in unlocking the door, which is expected from that cruel psycho. Shion tells Taiyou to calm down and instructs him to pick up the lock and crack the password that refreshes every minute if he wants to enter the washroom. Mutsumi, who knows that her dummy husband won't be able to do such things ever in his life, gets up to help him, as she doesn't want to see her husband poop in his pants. However, Futaba stops her from helping him, telling her that they should wait as she is confident that Taiyou alone will be able to figure it out. Hirakawa enters the dining space, immediately activating his sister complex and comments on Mutsumi, telling her that she is looking like the prettiest thing in the universe, like always. On the other hand, Taiyou literally begs for help in a very high-pitched voice, implying that stuff is already leaking, so Futaba tells Shion to help that loser out and lets him have a good, nice, and long toilet session. As his daily life in the Yozakura mansion begins, Taiyou realizes that things will only go south for him from now on. The next day in the morning, when identical alarm clocks program to explode alert all of the other spies to wake up, they destroy them before they can explode, showing how used they are to dealing with such traps already, but on the other hand, Taiyou one explodes again. Shion uses her drones to get her desired food from the refrigerator that is surrounded by deadly lasers. Futaba uses swift speed to get what she needs, but when Taiyou's turn comes up, he messes up badly and triggers the lasers, prompting the weapons hidden inside the refrigerator to pop up and shoot towards him. Later, during his first gun training, Taiyou fires a shot which apparently has so much recoil that it sends him flying backwards. The poison and the food continue to make Taiyou fight for his dignity, and as he keeps on using his analytical abilities to figure out the passwords, slowly his intelligence improves. Later at school, Taiyou's 3 friends approach him, asking him if he is either convulsing weak or still. Taiyou in reply tells them that he is alright, but what he doesn't tell them is that the shirt he is wearing underneath his school jacket weighs 30 kilograms, which has caused him to sink into his desk. As all of these trainings increase Taiyou's basic physical strength and reduce his weakness, he becomes better and worthier to be beside Mutsumi. At night, he comes to Mutsumi's room where he finds her lying asleep on her desk while studying. Seeing that in this late at night she was working, he also goes out to train and practices on how to aim and fire. Initially, Taiyou's shots land nowhere near the target, but he continues training. That's when Mutsumi comes there, telling him that he should take a small break and brings him inside the house, offering him a cup of hot tea. Mutsumi recalls the time when she and Taiyou were just neighbors and not friends, only in middle school. When she was being bullied by some girls because of her silver streak, Taiyou saved her from being bullied and became good friends with her. So according to Mutsumi memories, Taiyou has been protecting her since middle school, and that makes him a perfect husband who doesn't need to become any stronger. But Taiyou still continues to train as he doesn't want to back down anymore, and he learns to control gun recoil completely with the help of Shinzo. Shion, on the other hand, who realizes that Taiyou does have some hidden talent that is letting him improve at a much faster pace than a normal person, wonders what the hidden talent is. Taiyou, in the meantime, continues to spend his days there and becomes even smoother at avoiding the traps, but fails to become resistant to poison. As he faints this time, Nanao now brings him to the infirmary to check up on his health condition. Futaba goes there and instantly realizes that Taiyou has been hiding his actual physical conditions, using layered fake skins that Kingo gave him. As she reveals all of his scars and wounds on his body, it becomes clear that Taiyou doesn't have a hidden talent that has helped him improve, but rather that he made it look like he was improving by hiding his failures. Now that the secret is out, Futaba advises Taiyou to stop trying to take his own life by staying here, but Taiyou remains adamant as he wants to become worthy of being Mutsumi's protector, and he tells Futaba not to worry for him, as he is confident that he will be able to survive for another week. After that, Futaba can train him to become strong. Realizing that this guy cannot be helped, Futaba gives up on him and gives him a book of code breaking, stating that it will help him unlock the door to the toilet. While Taiyou starts reading the book, Futaba goes outside acknowledging Taiyou's mad love for Mutsumi, which is the only thing that is pushing him to go through these unimaginably painful days here. Realizing that he is more than perfect for Mutsumi, she is relieved that he is the guy who married her. Eventually, Taiyou recovers and manages to unlock the door to the restroom, thanks to the book that Futaba gave him. With that done, the boy clears all of the traps set at the house, so the computer acknowledges him as an official member of the Yozakura family, causing his family ring to grow. Futaba congratulates Taiyou on becoming an official member of their family, but warns him that their upcoming training will be even more hellish than what he has been through this past month. Although Taiyou gets scared at first, when Mutsumi motivates him to do his best, he gets determined to give it his all. The story continues. We see Mutsumi, who is inside the kitchen again, being the perfect waifu, takes a sip of what she has just cooked but still doesn't think it's perfect yet. So she finishes it off with a good touch of strong poison, the perfect ingredient to complete the dish. Taiyou comes to the kitchen wearing a bra and explains that he is practicing his disguise, skills that he is learning from Kingdo. Mutsumi still takes it the other way and assumes that her husband has perhaps become so desperate for women that he is turning into a woman himself. Kingdo comes there disguised as a plump and voluptuous woman, showing Taiyou the ropes as to how he should do it. Shinzo comes to the kitchen asking for some food when he sees that two women and an angry dog are harassing a man wearing a bra, making him question if he has actually entered the wrong website on the internet again. As if things weren't weird already, the weirdest guy on the planet comes to the kitchen stating that he is about to go out on a mission, and tells Mutsumi to give him a smooch on the lips as a goodbye kiss. However, he only receives a big bump on the head and has to leave the place without a kiss. Shinzo asks Taiyou how things have been going with him lately, and upon learning that he is still going through his harsh train, he resonates with him, telling him that he too is heading out on a mission that will be moderately hard as well as involving retrieving the original plate used to create counterfeit money. Before leaving on his mission, Shinzo gives Taiyou a gift which remains undisclosed to us for now. Later, Taiyou goes to the school with Mutsumi, where Mutsumi shows her disappointment in Kingdo and Hirokawa's foolish dramatic antics earlier in the kitchen. Taiyou, who has become used to such behaviors, only laughs at the situation and continues walking with her towards their classroom building. Suddenly, a baseball rushes towards Mutsumi from behind, but Taiyou somehow catches it before it can reach her without even looking behind, showing how skilled he is, and throws the ball back to the baseball team with perfect precision, prompting the coach, who witnesses everything, to invite Taiyou to their team. However, Taiyou has no interest in such dumb things, so he continues walking towards the class. During lunch break, Mutsumi tells Taiyou that day by day, he is becoming more and more superhuman thanks to his training under Futaba. She tells him to hide his abilities, now that he is no longer a regular weak human, as people would get suspicious of him. Mutsumi also mentions that Taiyou unintentionally walks around in stealth mode, where he creates no footsteps and even perfectly hides his presence. So the students who have noticed him in that state, particularly girls, have started to call him a ninja. In any case, she mentions that she has something to show him and tells him to come with her to her office if he is free after school. Back at home in Mutsumi's office space, she puts stamps rapidly on thousands of legal documents, but not only that, she reads all of the contents inside as well at super speed, being able to point out if there are any mistakes inside. As she finds many mistakes in a lot of the documents, she hands them to Taiyou, telling him that those are rejected and should be returned to the clients who sent them to her. Taiyou realizes that Mutsumi is very skilled at doing administrative work, which just shows why she is worthy of being the head of the Yozakura family. Her work involves funding, investing in real estate management as well. According to Mutsumi, Hirokawa occasionally puts in legal documents with the petition for Taiyou and Mutsumi's divorce, but she, of course, rejects all of them as well, and tells Taiyou clearly to burn all of the documents related to them. Mutsumi also finds a document related to Kingdo, so she goes directly in front of his bedroom and barges inside, where she finds a pile of clothes stacked up on each other. Kengo reveals having been inside the large pile of clothes, being the dude whose only talent is to disguise himself as another person, so having a mountain of clothes isn't very natural. Anyway, because Mutsumi just barged in on his room like that, Kengo jokingly told her that she shouldn't do something like this as she was invading his privacy. Mutsumi goes straight to the point and tells Kengo that he has forgotten once again to attach the paperwork for the report that he was told to give. While she is busy trying to reason with Kengo, Taiyou touches his pile of clothes and accidentally puts his hands on a grenade which doesn't explode because our brother has finally learned how to deal with such things. Anyway, Kengo keeps acting like a spoiled brat and doesn't listen to Mutsumi's words at all, so she decides to use her powers as the head of the family, and using her ring activates a mechanism called hibernation which locks the entire house down. On the other hand, Shinzo, who has infiltrated the secured facility where the counterfeit money is being made, learns that someone from outside is pulling all of the strings. He tries to retrieve the counterfeit money, but falls for a double trap, which triggers an emergency alarm, alerting all of the guards and men there that there is an intruder at their facility. Back at the mansion, Mutsumi returns to her room looking for Kengo and uses a thermal detector to see if he is hiding somewhere there. Taiyou, who has come to Mutsumi's room for the first time ever, even though he is her husband, sees a piano and a guitar inside, making him realize that his wife, whom he knows literally nothing about, has a knack for music. He also sees that she can paint very well, in fact, so well that in her artwork she has perfectly depicted how evil Hirukawa is. They then head to Shion's room, hoping that Kengo is there, and find Shion to be meditating and doing yoga, being away from her smartphone for the first time ever. After finding Kengo nowhere near Shion's room, the two then head to Futaba's room where she is just casually chilling and taking a nap while knitting another sweater. Mutsumi knows that it will be best for them if they don't wake Futaba up, so she leaves her room quietly and heads to Nanao's room next, only to find nothing again. After exploring the entire house together, they end up in front of a secret room where the entire walls are surrounded by Mutsumi's pictures. No need to explain which creep's room this might be, right? Mutsumi ignores that room completely, not knowing that Kengo is actually inside there disguised as Mutsumi in order to blend in with her pictures perfectly. The two search anywhere and everywhere inside the house, but after failing to find any clue as to where Kengo might be, the two walk back when they run into Futaba, Shion, and Nanao, who reveal to have been together all this time dealing with spy business, which means that the three siblings that Mutsumi and Taiyou encountered earlier were none other than Kengo in perfect disguise. Realizing that, Taiyou takes a look around and finds Kengo disguising himself as a portrait of Mona Lisa. He chases him down to a secret passageway that even Mutsumi has never seen before, even though she has been living here since she was born. Mutsumi believes that Kengo himself constructed this hole in order to escape, so she admits her defeat and turns off the hibernation mode. She then walks back to Kengo's room with Taiyou, but surprisingly enough, she handcuffs Taiyou, disclosing that it is Kengo who is disguised as Taiyou. She reveals having noticed the slight differences in behavior. For example, Taiyou always opens the door for her and lets her pass through at first, but Kengo didn't do that when he was disguised as Taiyou, so she suggests that Kengo put more effort into paying attention to his target's attitude and details, as in that way he will become truly untraceable. Kengo finally admits his defeat as he sees how much his sister resembles his deceased mother now, which brings a smile to his face. Moments later, Taiyou joins Kengo to help reorganize all of his piled-up clothes and thanks him for being a total goof today, as that has helped bring a huge smile to Mutsumi's face, who seems to have enjoyed everything quite a lot. Hirukawa comes back to his hidden room to appreciate his sister's beauty by giving her photos some tribute, but upon figuring out that his sister now knows about this room, he wonders how he is going to be facing her now. Later that day, Mutsumi prepares a tasty curry for Taiyou, who upon having a taste, becomes overwhelmed with the blast of simplistic yet beautiful flavors. He praises Mutsumi for being such a great cook, which brings a smile to her face. At that moment, he takes a look at the clock and realizes that Shinzo hasn't made his return yet. Coincidentally, Shinzo calls Mutsumi through a secret video call and basically begs her to save him from the people he has been hiding from for the past couple of hours, giving them the information they need to find him. He tells them to also bring his weapon, revealing him to be an expectant of weapons who turns into a complete loser whenever he is unarmed, just like now wanting to save him. Mutsumi sends Taiyou to rescue Shinzo and instructs him to go inside using a GPS tracker. One of the guards suddenly appears before Taiyou and hold him at gunpoint. But Taiyou, who has been through such situations before, uses the experience against the man and neutralizes him. He then senses more guards coming, but also takes good care of them. He reveals that earlier, when Shinzo gave him a gift, it was actually a self-defense gun that released almost 8 million volts as an output. Taiyou uses the gun on his enemies and takes care of all of him, reaching Shinzo with no problem at all. Shinzo becomes overjoyed by Taiyou's presence and hugs him tightly, thanking him for coming here to save him. Taiyou gives Shinzo his gun back, which brings back his manly character again, so he manages to cruise the enemies and successfully retrieve the counterfeit money. As they both are about to exit through the back door, Cypher manages to hit Taiyou's leg with his gun, forcing Shinzo to also surrender. Taiyou, who has learned from Mutsumi that Shinzo is a trained assassin who can use anything as a deadly weapon, throws a fork at him, which triggers his manly character again, who uses that fork should precisely pierce through the sniper gun and follows up by shooting the sniper. After dealing with everything, Shinzo carries Taiyou back home with their bond, becoming even better than before. On the other hand, a mysterious man enters the facility where Shinzo and Taiyou were and questions the sniper about who was in charge of this place. Getting no answers from the men and the snipers, the mysterious man sends them to the afterlife by smashing their heads open with a hammer. With his goal done, he brings out his phone with a photo of Taiyou, revealing that he is his next target. The story continues. We see Taiyou is walking down the street, talking with Mutsumi about some guy and a girl who have been through a huge fight, but even after that suddenly has gotten into a relationship. Apparently it was because when fighting while inside a Ferris wheel, the two had watched a beautiful sunset together, which brought them together. Ever since then, this method has been called a matchmaking Ferris wheel. According to the method, if a couple watches this sunset together, they will be happy together. Although Taiyou thinks it's a total hoax, Mutsumi thinks that they should give this matchmaking method a try and proposes to Taiyou that they should go spend a day riding that specific Ferris wheel together. Taiyou happily agrees to spend some time with his wife, but before he can give his final answer to her, he is approached by the mysterious man with a hammer, who parks his car right beside where Taiyou is. Taiyou hangs up the call, sensing trouble, and asks the man who he is, but instead of introducing himself, the man first confirms that the guy in front of him is his current target. After confirming his target, the man places his hand inside his jacket, which makes Taiyou suspect that the man is about to bring out a weapon to shoot him. However, the man actually reveals himself to be a police officer as he brings out his police identification card and introduces himself as Seiji Hotokiyama. Seiji, who suspects Taiyou of being the perpetrator of the money counterfeit incident, tells him to come to the police station as he needs to interrogate him about this case. Shortly after arriving at the city's police station, Seiji brings Taiyou to the interrogation chamber and goes straight to the point instead of beating around the bush. He reveals to Taiyou that a picture of him fighting against one of the money counterfeit agents was posted on the dark web, which horrifies the ugly loser as he thought all this time that the Yozakura family spies would be influential enough to cover up all of the mishaps, but now that he is caught red-handed. Taiyou continues hearing what Seiji says. Seiji also reveals having video footage of Taiyou trespassing on private property using a firearm and being in a high-speed car chase. He also puts the blame on Taiyou for blowing up his school, not knowing it was a bomber who did so, and got blown up in the end as a result. The police officer, who has no idea why a regular high schooler is committing so many crimes, asks Taiyou jokingly if he wishes to become the god of crimes or something. Taiyou remains silent as he literally has nothing to say and holds grudges against the Yozakura family, who didn't back him up. Seiji continues telling Taiyou about his investigation and reveals that, surprisingly enough, there is information about Taiyou's co-conspirators, meaning that all of the evidence only points at the kid, who is certainly not good enough to commit such high-level crimes out of nowhere, knowing that there is more to the story. Seiji asks Taiyou if he likes working for some secret organization or anything else that is unknown to the government. The officer promises Taiyou that if he spills out all of his beans, and gives him a good reason as to why he did whatever he did, he will let him off with a minimalistic charges a teenager can get in juvenile prison. He tells Taiyou to start talking if he wants to have a good life ahead, but Taiyou doesn't want to sell out everyone selfishly, even though they were the ones who didn't protect him firsthand, still being the righteous guy he is. Taiyou claims to know nothing and tells the officer to go ahead and arrest him already, but the officer doesn't jump to conclusions just yet and pours a glass of water for Taiyou, mixing a substance in it right in front of him and telling him to have a sip of that drink. Taiyou assumes that the drink is mixed with some truth serum, but that is not the case, as Seiji explains that he only simply puts some minerals inside the drink to make it healthier. Of course, Taiyou doesn't believe in his claims for obvious reasons, but Seiji insists and forcefully makes him drink the water. As he gulps down everything, a water balloon comes out of his mouth, which means that Taiyou anticipated this move and is acting more like a spy. As the time goes by, the officer realizes that the kid won't listen to him, so he goes into berserk mode, revealing his psycho forward to Taiyou as he brings out his hammer and grazes Taiyou's knee with that hammer. The officer reveals that there was a certain drug dealer who was evading the law, using his money and power, but even he failed to escape from the hands of Seiji and was brought to absolute justice. So, he states that he won't let Taiyou get a free pass from facing the law just because he is a kid, and he starts choking him on the neck, telling him that if he doesn't spill the beans, more of his friends will face the same torture for being affiliated with him. Taiyou realizes how crazy this guy is, but as he sees a spider string behind the officer, he realizes that it's perhaps another test by the untrusting sister lover Hirukawa. So, he gets more confident and again tells Seiji that he doesn't know anything, and he also adds that even if he did, he wouldn't give it up to a total psychopath like him. To make Taiyou cooperate, Seiji lifts his hand and attacks him with his hammer. However, Taiyou anticipates the attack and dodges, causing Seiji to miss and hit the wall, which breaks down completely and reveals Hirukawa, who has been hiding behind it, listening to their conversations all along. Hirukawa explains what is going on and reveals that Seiji is his friend and was once a classmate in junior high. Because they have a certain connection, Seiji has always helped the Yozakura family by covering up all of their activities. Seiji also gets the benefit of doing this, as in exchange the Yozakura family helps him find the criminals and sometimes investigates with him on many police cases. Apparently, one day out of nowhere Hirukawa approached Seiji and told him that a new kid had joined his family, and that is why Seiji tested the boy to see how loyal he is to the Yozakura family. And he feels relieved because the boy didn't sell out his allies and also didn't fall for his taunts, telling Taiyou that he has passed the test. Seiji looks forward to working with him in the future. Now that the test is done, Seiji turned to Hirukawa, telling him that he will now have to do him a favor in exchange for the tests he conducted for his own entertainment. However, Hirukawa, who has no intention of wasting his time listening to this drunk hammerman, goes away, making the excuse that he is too busy dealing with other missions. As he leaves the place, Seiji feels sad for Taiyou because the boy too was neglected. So he offers to give him a ride, but Taiyou claims that he will be fine and heads off alone to attend his classes at his school. Hirukawa comes to his classroom as the substitute teacher and starts taking the class when Taiyou accidentally falls asleep after staying up all night at the police station. However, Hirukawa, being the ideal teacher, doesn't let that slide and throws the chalk towards him at such a speed that it pierces through the walls as well, almost hitting Taiyou, who barely dodges it. While continuing to ride for the class, Hirukawa taps on the board repeatedly with the chalk, speaking to Taiyou with Morse code, telling him that he cannot afford to sleep in class because he is now a spy who must have his eyes and senses open at all times. Knowing that Taiyou will fall asleep again, Hirukawa threatens to shoot more chalk at him at an even faster pace if he senses his heartbeat drop even a single beat. Mutsumi retaliates using the Morse code as well, telling Hirukawa that he shouldn't threaten his brother-in-law like that, who is clearly tired as hell, but Hirukawa doesn't listen to Mutsumi and continues doing all sorts of shenanigans to make Taiyou fall asleep. As he uses a technique to make all of the other students sleep, Taiyou also dozes off. So Hirukawa shoots the chalks at him, but surprisingly enough, Taiyou dodges all of them, revealing that he has reached the half-awake state where his body is asleep, but his brain is still awake and functioning to keep its body safe. Because of his half-sleep ability, Taiyou gets the side effect of sleepwalking as well, scare Shinzo late at night, making Mutsumi wonder if he will remain the same in the future when they will eventually share a bed together. One day, Taiyou decides to ask Mutsumi on a date, but gets sidetracked by Seiji, who assigns him on a mission, telling him to come to his texted location immediately. So, Taiyou heads off to the location, which is an amusement park, where he learns from Seiji that a young couple has illegal guns and gives him the task of finding and arresting them, but because Seiji has no clue what the couple looks like, it leaves Taiyou confused, as he doesn't know how he will be identifying them. In the meantime, Mutsumi comes before Taiyou, revealing that she has learned about the location from Seiji, and knowing that the place is perfect for a first date, she couldn't resist the urge to come there. They both start looking for the suspect while having a good time as well, and take a roller coaster ride together, following a couple whose appearance makes them look like they have guns in their possession. But after taking the ride together, they learn that the couple is rather wholesome and doesn't have anything suspicious going on at all. They continue taking more rides together and get jealous of the couples who are all loved of. After clearly inspecting all of the couples, the only couple left in the amusement park reveals themselves to be in suits, making them the perfect suspect. The two follow the couple to a gift shop where Taiyou buys some flowers to give Mutsumi in secret. In the end, he realizes that the last couples in the park are also on a normal date. Rather, it was the first couple whom they thought to be too wholesome, who turned out to be the ones who had guns in their possession. As the guy gets into a fight with the girl because of how lame her character is, it causes the girl to get mad and bring out a custom-made weapon to attack the guy. As both couples start firing rapidly at each other, the crowd evacuates from the place. Taiyou gets busy protecting a kid, not realizing that the flower he bought for Mutsumi fell out of his pocket. As a result, the flower gets caught in the crossfire between the couple. This makes Taiyou furious, who doesn't hesitate to shoot both maniacs at once and neutralizes them by firing an electric gun shoot at them. Thanks to his intervention, the couple is caught by the police and taken away to custody. With the mission coming to an end, Seiji thanks Taiyou for completing his mission to success and lets Hirukawa know how the kid did, who becomes instantly jealous upon realizing that if he had taken the mission when he was offered to earlier, he could have been the one to spend the day with Mutsumi. Anyway, Mutsumi succeeds in doing what their original plan was and takes the Ferris wheel with Taiyou. As the two watched a beautiful sunset together, it brought them even closer. Taiyou takes the opportunity, gives his wife with a rose, and spends the time with her on the Ferris wheel enjoying the beautiful yellow sky. The story continues. In a dimly lit room, a pink-haired girl is busily tapping away at her computer, books about hacking stacked in her desk. She breathes hungrily as her fingers dance on the board. Meanwhile, at the Yozakura mansion in Shion's room, Shion had just completed her most recent mission. She lies back on her pillow, glad that she can sleep for the first time in 80 hours. Unfortunately, the pink-haired girl just executed her program and an emergency warning blares in Shion's room, waking her up from her sleep. She quickly sits up and sees a scurrying rodent on her screen. Annoyed, she picks up her controller and wonders who this intruder is. When Shion started hunting for the rodent, the pink-haired girl's screen is filled with an error warning. Before anything more can happen, she unplugs her computer. At the same time the rodent Shion was chasing flies away in her game and escaped. The pink-haired girl's eyes in relief and opens the partial information she acquired. Pictures of Taiyou quickly fill her screen and she stares contentedly at them. The next morning, Taiyou and Mutsumi encounter Shion with bags under her eyes. Shion explains that some weirdo hacked into their database last night, trying to access Taiyou's personal data. Thankfully, she stopped it before any incriminating info was leaked. However, she wonders how the hacker could access their database in the first place when only their family has access codes for it. Taiyou already looks worried about this news. On their way to school, the two wonder who would want to gather info on Taiyou. Taiyou then abruptly blocks Mutsumi's way, just as multiple needs pierce the road path they were about to walk on. Someone was attacking them from somewhere, so Taiyou quickly leads Mutsumi in another way. Behind them, a pink-haired girl armed with needles follows them. When Taiyou realizes he couldn't shake their pursuer, he instead leads Mutsumi to an abandoned alley. There, he pulls out his gun and waits for their pursuer to turn the corner. Out of nowhere, the pink-haired girl leaps on them from above. Taiyou blocks her needles with his gun and pushes her away. Meanwhile, the girl just drops her needles and looks hungrily at her hands. She gushes at how powerful Taiyou is. When Taiyou questions who she is, she just confesses her love for him and asks him to die. Her comment and weapons make Mutsumi realize who they are dealing with. It is the infamous manhunter spy Ayaka Kurosaki. Ayaka is known to use her spy techniques to stalk the man she has crushes on and then stabs them to death with her needles. Ayaka giddily reveals how she fell in love with Taiyou when she saw his video on the dark web, but now the whole underworld already has their eyes on Taiyou, the newest member of the Yozakura family, and recently someone put a $100,000 bounty on his death. Now, she is overjoyed that her crush is being recognized. However, something else worries her. Ayaka then throws some needles above and an assassin suddenly drops near them. The bounty is attracting more and more assassins to eliminate Taiyou for their own gain. Thus she has to make him her forever before anyone else can steal him away. She loves him so much that she already knows all about him. He tries to avoid stepping on plants when sneaking around. He repairs the buildings accidentally damaged during missions, and when he is forced to catch a train during a mission, he buys a ticket afterwards. The wonderful Taiyou had truly captured her heart. Mutsumi quickly agrees with her while Ayaka just asks Taiyou to come to her. However, Taiyou puts his arms around Mutsumi and explains that they are already married, so he can't allow himself to be killed. Ayaka tears fell and states how the ugly Mutsumi must have brainwashed. Unfortunately, even though she would want to kill Mutsumi, she cannot because she promised her big brother, Hirukawa. After all, no one can really target the Yozakura family with Hirukawa guarding them. That was why she asked Hirukawa for permission to kill Taiyou. Of course, Hirukawa readily agreed as long as Mutsumi won't be harmed. She even asked him for his data and Hirukawa happily lent her their access code. Taiyou and Mutsumi are getting angry at their big brother, but Ayaka just twirls around and fills the whole alleyway with needles. She then promises to meet up with the two again later, before happily leaving the alley, relieving Taiyou and a twitching assassin on the ground. Later at school, their teacher announces that they have a new transfer student, the one and only Ayaka Kurosaki, and guess what? The only vacant seat left is right next to Taiyou. Ayaka cutely walks toward him when she abruptly trips and falls. Taiyou blocks his face with a notebook with a needle now embedded right on it, and so Taiyou's silent battle with his crazy obsessed stalker now begins. After taking their class break, Taiyou returns to their classroom to find his seat filled with spikes. When he tries to press his pen, a needle suddenly fires from it. During PE class, the basketball tail was about to catch, suddenly has spikes retreating from it. Even during class, Taiyou catches the needles Ayaka keeps throwing at him. At lunch with Mutsumi, he had to dodge the needles while eating their bento. By the time their afternoon classes arrive, Taiyou is panting with exertion with his items now filled with spikes. Beside him, Ayaka is also crying and asking why Taiyou couldn't just accept her feelings for him. Nevertheless, she won't give up on him and will continue to tell her how she feels. She then throws a rain of needles into the air, which subsequently lands on the knees of everyone's neck. Ayaka explains to Taiyou that the needles have hypnosis potion on them, so for the meantime they are all temporarily her servants. Every one of Taiyou's classmates stands up and charges at him. Taiyou tries his best to dodge, but their numbers quickly overwhelmed and immobilize them. Taiyou tries to ask Ayaka to not drag others into their quarrels, but Ayaka creepily replies that everyone exists just for them. She was about to attack again when Mutsumi blocked her way. Behind them, the window silently opens and an assassin points his gun at Ayaka. Mutsumi recognizes the assassin as the one from earlier, and he was clearly angry at Ayaka. The assassin shoots Ayaka, but Mutsumi was able to pull her away with the bullet grazing Mutsumi. Before the assassin can shoot again, Taiyou angrily shakes his classmates and shoots his electric gun at the assassin. The assassin falls outside while Tail runs over to check on Mutsumi. Ayaka asks Mutsumi why she even saved her, so Mutsumi states that she's just happy someone else can see Taiyou's awesomeness. She appreciates Ayaka even despite her outrageous ways. Her word surprises Ayaka, and she slowly sees Mutsumi as an angel. She clasps her eyes and expresses her undying love to Mutsumi. After school is over, the three of them are walking home, but this time Ayaka is lovingly clinging to Mutsumi. They even share an ice cream, while Taiyou just questions their behavior. Mutsumi points out that she just thinks of Ayaka like a mini Hirukawa, so she knows how to handle love-obsessed stalkers. She then asks Ayaka if she's still in love with Taiyou, and Ayaka admits that she does. That's why she still wants to give her feelings and kill Taiyou and afterward live happily ever after with Mutsumi. Meanwhile, Taiyou receives a call from Shion. A few hours later, Taiyou found himself holding a controller sitting in Shion's room. Mutsumi explains how Shion is always finding someone to play with, and now she has her sights on Taiyou. In fact, last week Shion had a gaming marathon with Shinzo ending up collapsing after 5 nights of playing. However, Mutsumi promises to support Taiyou and shows him all the energy drinks she prepared. Taiyou is starting to get worried, but Shion assures him that they are just doing a trial run. When the game starts, Shion explains to him that all they need to do is defeat the enemy showing up and keep going. Weirdly, the enemies appearing all have Hirukawa's face on them. The two continue playing, with both kicking and punching away the enemies. After a few seconds, the boss shows up, which surprises Taiyou. They just started, but the boss already appeared. The boss this time is a creepy train with Hirukawa's face on it. Taiyou taps away at his controller, while his avatar tries his best to stop the oncoming train. After a few seconds of tapping, the boss keels over dead and they have finally cleared the level. Taiyou is already tired and he didn't even find the game all that fun. He wonders why they are playing such games when he notices the news blaring on a TV. A runaway train had finally been stopped, but authorities have no idea who stopped it and saved everyone. Shion finally explains that she actually hacks into the system of her target, converts them into a game and then clears it. That way, she finishes her work while getting the thrill of playing a game without save points or resets. In fact, the reason she invited Taiyou today is for assistance in another mission. Some terrorists are planning to crash a military helicopter into a thermal power plant. Shion starts the game and explains that their objective now is to defend their base. If they clear the enemies before it can invade, they win. From above some buildings, the enemies start spawning in the form of mini Hirukawas and a large dragon. Shion also hands Taiyou an item to revive him once in case he dies. When the battle starts, Shion jumps the blocks and attacks the small minions. Meanwhile, the nub Taiyou ended up bumping into walls and getting in a dead end with flying enemies surrounding him. Taiyou ended up glitching through the game walls and even accidentally enabling invincibility mode. Shion shouts at him and points out only cheaters use glitches. Mutsumi points out how the dragon is getting closer, so Shion was forced to get serious. More and more enemies block her way, but Shion calmly tells them that the more layers and walls of security there are, the more vulnerable it just is to security holes. Shion's avatar then leaps above the enemies, dodges the dragon's breath, and punches it, bringing the helicopter down in real life. Taiyou gives her an applause, but still the game doesn't end. Instead, uncountable smaller dragons suddenly start appearing in the horizon. It turns out that the terrorists also had another card up their sleeve. An army of drones that no one knew about. It was even too much for Shion, so she decides to use Shinzo's interception system. However, Taiyou had another idea. He remembers the revive item that Shion gave him, using that they revive the helicopter and use its own weapons to rain fire on the enemy. The smaller dragons could obliterate and their real-life drone counterparts explode from the helicopter's turrets. Technically, they used a glitch to revive the system they just destroyed. If they stop for even a second, they'll lose. Thankfully, Taiyou's fingering skills are up to the task. It was a pretty crude tactic, but Shion doesn't really hate it. More and more drones get shot down, but a couple manages to slip by the helicopter and charge towards the thermal plant. Shion tried to follow after them, but there was no need. A pink rodent appears and bounces between the enemies, killing them. Shion recognized it as the intruder the other day, but she has no idea who it is or why it's helping them. Taiyou and Mutsumi realize that it must be Ayaka aiding them in her own room. Ayaka was planning to take the rest of Taiyou's data, and she also wants to get some of Mutsumi's photos as a bonus. However, she didn't know that Taiyou and Shion were in battle and ended up joining them. The dragon continues breathing fire on the smaller minions, while the pink rodent spins and shoots out needles. With both their firepower, they finally clear the army of drones. Taiyou collapses on his back, relieved that it's finally over. Shion smirks while Ayaka is also glad that whatever she joined is finally finished. All of a sudden, someone messages her good job, but informs her that the party is over. Error signs once again fill her screen and her connection gets cut off. Shion thanks Taiyou for his help and offers him some snacks. She compliments his insane plan and wonders if Taiyou's brain is always glitching too. However, she plans to teach him that there's more to games than glitches and cheats. With an evil grin, she shows him more games and promises not to let him leave until they finish all of them. Thus they ended up playing for 3 straight days. The story continues. In front of an empty warehouse area, 2 secret agents named Uga Inugami and Sui always seem to have eliminated 2 of their targets. The first agent, Inugami, reads a magazine about spies and learns about Taiyou, who has been doing incredibly well in the Yozakura family. The other agent, Sui, who uses a katana as his weapon, shows no interest in Taiyou. However, because it is completely unrelated to what their mission is about. Meanwhile, at Yozakura House, Nanao calls Taiyou over the phone, requesting that he pick him up from a laboratory. Taiyou has been busy doing planks while lifting 1,000 pounds of weights, which shows that he has not been undergoing only spy training, but is actually getting ready to learn how to turn into a super Saiyan. Taiyou asks Nanao his location and learns that he is at an evil laboratory where he has already subdued dozens of evil scientists who have been conducting illegal experiments. Apparently at this lab, these scientists have been secretly manufacturing bioweapons like toxic gas, which led Nanao to come here as an undercover spy, and he took it upon himself to neutralize their latest manufactured weapon, the germ bomb Sodom. Apparently this tiny capsule has the ability to explode like a toxic gas bomb and can wipe out all life forms within a 10-mile radius. Nanao very much wants to have this bomb for himself, but knowing how dangerous it can be, he instead decides to destroy it and eats it up to do so. Taiyou gets concerned for Nanao, but Nanao claims he will be fine, stating that his body is the most toxic and poison resistant and can almost neutralize anything. Because this is a massive bomb, it will take Nanao 3 hours to completely neutralize it, but during that time he gets really dizzy and sleepy, and that is exactly why he is asking for Taiyou's help and is asking him to pick him up. Apparently there are many other labs nearby, so Nanao begs Taiyou to come get him quickly before the other scientists find out that he is a spy. Taiyou quickly gets on his way and rushes to the location. Minutes later, he is able to infiltrate the evil laboratory quite easily, which makes him think that something is fishy since there are neither guards nor signs of life anywhere nearby. He continues to move onwards to where Nanao is, and on the way he finds many guards knocked out, making him realize that a third-party team has also gotten involved. Right at that moment, a guard tries to shoot Taiyou from behind, but another man appears there and saves Taiyou by using his bullet chains to render the guard unconscious. That bullet chain user reveals himself to be none other than the secret agent from earlier in Inagami, who is with his accomplice Sui. Sui, who didn't want to get involved with Taiyou, thinks it was their fate that led them to encounter each other. He assumes that Taiyou is here on a mission as well, and he also informs the Taiyou fanboy, who is nearsighted and doesn't have his glasses on his eyes, that the kid standing in front of them is Taiyou. Sui gives his business card to Taiyou, revealing that they are members of an organization named Hinajiku, which is a government-operated intelligence unit. Their government is Suid spies, unlike the Yozakura family spies, who are more like freelancers in the spy business. Basically, these two elite spies were tasked by the government with the mission to neutralize this lab, and Inagami takes a sniff of the air and deduces that there are 5 armed people to their north underground, so he proceeds forward with Sui. Although Sui allows Taiyou to do what he came here for, Inagami doesn't let him leave and forces him to tag along with them. On their way to the underground facility, they skillfully knocked out more enemies, and the Taiyou too helps them out by knocking out some of the guards. When they eventually reach the final lab, Taiyou finds Nanao unconscious. However, as he tries to help him out, Inagami and Sui attack Nanao, revealing their side mission, which is to eliminate both Nanep. Apparently, when Taiyou earlier spoke with Nanao over the phone, Sui tapped into their conversation, and when he learned that Nanao had ingested the deadly weapon, that was when he decided to also eliminate Nanao. Taiyou, of course, doesn't let Sui do as he pleases and steps in front of Nanao, making it clear to both him and Inagami that if they want to hurt his brother, they will have to go past his dead body first. Taiyou prepares for the fight and aims his gun at Sui, but he is too late, as Sui in the blink of an eye uses his katana to destroy Taiyou's gun and also lands several blows on his body. With this unavoidable attack on Taiyou, Sui immobilizes Taiyou, making him bleed uncontrollably, and then proceeds to go towards Nanao to finish the job. Taiyou begs him not to do it, and Nanao himself gets up, claiming that he has detoxified the bomb already. He proves that his claims are correct by showing Sui the patch tests, which shows that he is not containing any bacteria poison, but still if Sui wants to eliminate him, Nanao requests that he at least let him live for a few more minutes so that he can save Taiyou's life by tending his wounds. Sui confirms that Nanao is telling the truth, so he lets him live and takes the patch test from him as evidence to show to the government. He also hands Nanao the ointment that is able to heal wounds, but tells Nanao at the same time to not use it since a useless guy like Taiyou is only a liability to the Yozakura family, who is better off dying than being a hindrance to them. Regardless of his advice, Nanao uses the ointment on Taiyou and brings him back home. When Taiyou regains consciousness, he finds himself strapped up with ropes and hanging above dozens of glowing candles. Unsurprisingly, it is Hirukawa's doing who, instead of explaining the situation, asks Taiyou if he can tell him why he put him in this state. Taiyou can't even speak because of the Utsuzi item placed inside his mouth, so Hirukawa himself gives him the answer, telling him that the answer to the question is on the front page of the Spy Gossip magazine, where there is an article about Taiyou being decimated by the government spies. Hirukawa blames Taiyou for potentially bringing downfall to the reputed family of the private spies by humiliating himself like that against Sui. Because of Taiyou's stinky dump and his recent, the entire Yozakura family has been reviewed bombed by many spies, leading to thousands of one-star reviews. But Hirukawa hasn't put Taiyou in this state just because of that. He has done so because Taiyou almost got Nanao killed and blames him for being a total weakling. Nanao comes there with Mutsumi to save Taiyou and immediately bites Hirukawa on the head, telling him to stop torturing Taiyou already. They also make Hirukawa apologize to Taiyou and then free Taiyou from being gagged. Taiyou has been filled with an extreme level of guilt thanks to Hirukawa, so he apologizes to everyone for tarnishing the Yozakura family's reputation. Hirukawa doesn't let Taiyou even have an emotional moment, telling him that he is not some big shot who can shake up the Yozakura family name with a single screw-up, and again starts torturing him by spinning him around. But in case Taiyou still regrets the loss he took earlier, Hirakawa suggests that he defeat the government spies of Hinajuku and restore the Yozakura family's name back to its former glory. A few days later, on a local train, a man takes all of the seats for himself, claiming that his Dragon Balls need a lot of air. Sui, who has been traveling on the train, politely asks the guy to sit properly, but the guy doesn't listen to him, so he decides to teach this arrogant punk a lesson and brings out his sword for a brief moment, which ends up with the guy being completely stripped off of his clothes. Just after teaching the guy a lesson, Sui moves away from him and confronts the guy who has been stalking him. That guy in the white cloak is none other than Taiyou, so Sui asks him what his business is with him, seeing how stiff and wary Taiyou is. Sui assumes that Taiyou must be here to avenge himself for the humiliation he faced the other day. Taiyou claims that that is not the case and shows us a flashback to when Hirakawa freed him. Hirakawa told him that Hinajuku is the unit of elite government spies, and to defeat them, he will have to steal their intelligence rather than conventionally attacking them, so basically, what Taiyou is doing is spying on the spy Sui. Yeah, he is doing a great job at it. Bro desperately didn't get caught red-handed in under a minute by his target. Anyway, Taiyou also realizes how lame and inexperienced he is as a spy, so he goes straight to the point and tells Sui that he wants to learn the ways of being a spy from him, so that he himself can improve as a spy. Although there is no such thing as a free lunch, Sui lets him tag along if he can tag along. Just after saying that he is certain Taiyou won't be able to keep up with him, Sui swiftly dashes away like the breeze of air using his secret method that lets him walk around silently at high speed. Taiyou barely follows him around and manages to close the distance between them. However, so he doesn't let him have his cool moment and strips him off his clothes, leaving him to be caught by the train station police, who think that Taiyou is just some pervert from the streets. On the very next day, Taiyou manages to find both Sui and Inagami again, and this time as well Sui strips Taiyou of his, but Taiyou remains determined. And on the third day, he spies on the two elite spies who are standing vertically against a tall building during their mission. This time, Taiyou is left unnoticed for a few seconds, but when Sui does notice him, he brings out his sword again, and once again does his best. These events continue until the 7th day, when Inagami and Sui go on a gang extermination mission. This time Taiyou manages to follow the two spies around for an entire day, and even helps them out dealing with the gangsters. Inagami finds his spy spirit commendable, but Sui doesn't. He once again tries to reveal Taiyou's naughty bits, but this time Taiyou manages to protect 70% of his body, which shows how much he has adapted already. Inagami laughs at Sui for not being able to execute his attack, which makes Sui so mad that he not only reveals Taiyou's naughty bits, but also Inagami's. Later, at the Yozakura residence, Nanao comes to Hirakawa and learns from him that when Taiyou came back home, he immediately passed out. Hirakawa became so disgusted with Taiyou for being a total useless loser that he decided to make use of him and revealed that he had been using him as a cutting board to chop vegetables for the past 2 hours. Nanao saves Taiyou from this complete psychopath and helps him regain consciousness. When Taiyou opens his eyes, Nanao tells him that he doesn't need to push his limits to prove that he is worthy of being a member of the Yozakura family. But Taiyou thinks otherwise. He doesn't want to be the lame, weak loser anymore, so he continues approaching Sui and Inagami this time. Later at night, he finds Sui at a cemetery, polishing a gravestone. Sui, who had come here on personal business, doesn't like the fact that Taiyou followed him here, so he decides to end it once and for all, and brings out his sword. As the duel begins, Sui comes with the first stress, but Taiyou is able to dodge it, showing how much his reflexes have improved over this short amount of time. He grabs Sui and throws him away into the sky. Sui, of course, lands on his feet and finally realizes that Taiyou has some potential to be in the Yozakura family because of his incredible growth. So he tells Inagami, who has been hiding, to take proper care of Taiyou, and finally changes his perception of him. Although Taiyou isn't able to bring much intel for the Yozakura family, the news of him being humiliated by government spies soon fades away. But what doesn't fade away is the public news of him running without clothes everywhere in the town. The story continues. We see hundreds of people waiting in front of a stage. Above the stage hangs a banner welcoming the Kurayuri party. When the lights turn on, a man all dressed up in feathers is standing on the stage. He flamboyantly welcomes every member of the electorate and everyone cheers him and welcome. In the intelligence government Hinajuku's headquarters, a redhead is watching the event. Her spies report that they failed again due to the vigilance of their targets. However, The redhead isn't worried, she already has a backup plan, and it all has to do with the newest member of the Yozakura family, Taiyou Asano. Meanwhile, Taiyou is out in the park with Mutsumi. He is carrying Mutsumi's items while helping her on her errand, and the park is full of children playing, couples dating, and families having picnics. As for Mutsumi, she is meeting someone very special. Taiyou's jaw dropped when he sees Sui waiting for them. Mutsumi explains to Taiyou that she and Sui are actually colleagues, but she is still annoyed at him for the recent incident concerning Nanao and Taiyou. Sui replies that he was just doing his mission back then, but they should focus on the task at hand. They are about to meet the Hinagika leader. After a few minutes of walking, Taiyou led them to a nearby cabinet office building. Taiyou was expecting to enter the building, but Sui instead leads them to a nearby restaurant. He then orders a weirdly named drink, and as the cashier accepts their order, the floor suddenly gives way and the group falls into the real Hinagika headquarters. While they slide hundreds of meters into the bowels of the earth, Sui casually offers Mutsumi some tea. Taiyou is getting jealous of the way Sui was holding Mutsumi, but Sui justifies it by stating that it's dangerous. He tells Taiyou to instead focus ahead of them. Before Taiyou can even comprehend to his words, traps suddenly spring in front of them, hundreds of arrows fly towards them, spikes suddenly protrude from the walls, and laser guns appear. They are all traps designed for security as well as training. Sui uses his sword to parry away the lasers and arrows, while Taiyou tries his best to dodge the projectiles and explosions. When they finally reach the bottom, Sui lands gracefully with Mutsumi in his arms, while Taiyou crashes in an unceremonious heap. He hadn't even recovered yet when a large steel ball dropped onto him. It was inches away from his head when a redhead appeared and punched the metal ball into smithereens. It was the redhead from earlier, and she questions whether a weakling like Taiyou can really keep Mutsumi safe. They then moved to a nearby office and piled up all the food that they brought. Everyone else is peacefully enjoying their desserts while Taiyou is still traumatized from the earlier traps. Mutsumi also took the time to explain that the redhead Rinfudo is a former classmate of Big Bro Hirukawa, and she likes throwing tea parties from time to time. It turns out that the errand was just a tea party and the big bag was filled with cakes and other sweets. Rin scolds them for mentioning Hirukawa's name. She hugs Mutsumi and complains how Hirukawa is always being so overprotective and hiding her from the world. It turns out that although Rin and Hirukawa get on each other's nerves, they both adore Mutsumi very much. Rin also points out that her love for Mutsumi is also why she's hoping Mutsumi will marry a guy capable of protecting her from her brother, but looking at Taiyou now, Rin is very disappointed. She also heard from Sui that Taiyou is basically lower than low. Mutsumi protects Taiyou's shattered pride and tells everyone that Taiyou's soul is just as strong as Hirukawa. All of a sudden the walls explode and Hirukawa walks in. He already figured that Mutsumi is here because Hinagiku is the only one capable of blocking their GPS tracking system, but now he demands that Rin hand over Mutsumi. Mutsumi covers her hand in embarrassment over her brother's obsession over him. Rin stands up and tells Hirukawa he is interrupting their tea party. She orders him to leave, but the two ended up just insulting each other. Hirukawa snaps at Rin with his steel spider threads for corrupting his innocent sister. In response to his jealousy, Rin punches through his threads, breaking them with their fist. The two engaged in a battle between peers with Rin's fists matching Hirukawa's threads and strengths. Their confrontation creates shockwaves that blow away nearby equipment and shake the whole underground building. Warning sirens blare over the whole agency, announcing everyone to evacuate. Taiyou questions whether they should evacuate while Mutsumi holds her head in annoyance over the fact that this happens every time Hirukawa and Rin meet. Sui tells them to evacuate while he tries to stop the two fighting. Mutsumi runs after him, yelling out that she should be the one breaking up the fight. The two don't even stop their duel, but just blows away Sui like he was an annoying fly. They are about to go back to fighting again when Mutsumi stands between them. Unfortunately, the two's attacks had already started and they couldn't stop themselves anymore. In the last second, Taiyou pushes Mutsumi down and the two punches collides with his face, squeezing it like a juicer. Mutsumi catches the unconscious tail while the two adults stop their fighting in shock. In a quiet but threatening voice, Mutsumi warns the two that if either of them causes any more trouble, she will never talk to them again. The threat immediately petrifies the two obsessive adults and Hirukawa faints in fear. Meanwhile, Rin kneels and begs for Mutsumi's forgiveness. Rin compliments Taiyou's toughness for still being alive after that punch. This makes much to me happy, and points out that this is expected from her husband. Noticing how cheery Mutsumi become, Rin concedes and accepts that maybe Taiyou's actually a good match for Mutsumi. When Taiyou finally wakes up, Rin explains that she wants him to go undercover to investigate a politician. More specifically, she wants him to spy on the dancing politician Yoshimasa Kurayuri. He got the nickname because Yoshimasa usually dances on stage while spouting off his campaign promises of free education, pension normalization, and reduction of tax. He was the man in the puffy coat and the leader of the Kurayuri party. Despite his goofy appearance, he is currently the leading politician right now. However, there is a lot of bloodshed behind all of Yoshimasa's achievements. This especially concerns his 3 underlings, the triplet spies named Red, Blue, and Yellow. With their assistance, Yoshimasa has used bribery, assassination, and other illegal means to climb to the top. Apparently, Yoshimasa is about to make a major move before the general election to ensure that he gets most of the votes. Rin's organization confiscated a miniature bomb when dealing with another mission, and just like that deadly bomb, there are several more at large. When Rin arrested the perpetrator who was smuggling these bombs to a single customer, the smuggler claimed that he didn't know the customer's name or his face, but very conveniently, the smuggler had a videotape that shows a glimpse of Yoshimasa, so she is certain that it is him. However, this glimpse of him will not be enough evidence to get a warrant to arrest him. Rin can't just sit idly when Yoshimasa is setting up bombs all over the country, so to avoid any complications, Rin tells Taiyou that he has to gain surefire intelligence on Yoshimasa's bombing plans to prevent the upcoming tragedy. Taiyou doesn't understand why Rin is tasking him, a rookie spy, with this mission. Rin explains that since Yoshimasa is aware of Hanajuku, the government-issued organization's existence, he has his guard up against them. However, since Taiyou is basically a nobody, Yoshimasa won't consider him a threat and his team won't even be able to detect him, but still, Rin gives him a makeover and turns him into a proper-looking waifu. Taiyou doesn't understand exactly why he has to disguise himself as a woman. It's clearly for the fan service, but Rin claims otherwise and shows him a poster first. According to the poster, the Kurayuri party has posted an advertisement where they have wanted to hire a female with black hair and long eyelashes, which also matches Taiyou's current disguise. So if Taiyou is hired, it is going to make it easy for him to infiltrate into enemy facilities and gain vital information about their bombing operations. Rin pats Taiyou on the shoulder, telling him that during this mission, hundreds of thousands of people's lives will be in his hands, so she makes it clear that he cannot afford to fail at this mission and motivates him to get the intelligence that they need. Soon after, at the Kurayuri party site, the ugly politician Yoshimasa is continuously making a joke out of himself by holding a dance. This time, Yoshimasa introduces a new palm grade to his friend, Yoko Asada, the biggest and baddest hottie in town. Yoko is obviously Taiyou, and he himself is overwhelmed by all of the cheering by the fanatic crowd gathered by Yoshimasa. Yoshimasa notices how agitated Yoko looks, so he comes near her and pats her on the head, telling her not to feel too overwhelmed. He promises her that from now on she is a part of the hero's family and hugs her tightly, indicating how much of a pervert he is. Taiyou in the meantime is violated by all means, but he remains silent as all of this is part of the... At that moment, 3 protesters intervened in Yoshimasa's event, calling him a corrupt politician who is evil to the extreme because all of his policies are only going to help the rich become richer and the poor become poorer. They start chanting, saying that the people shouldn't let such a tyrant win and oppress the weak. This leads to a fight which almost ends up with one of the protesters getting hurt, as one of the heavy sound losses is about to fall on top of a protester. Yoshimasa himself dives on top of the guy and takes the hit, showing how much he cares for the people. Yeah, it's a basic trick to gain people's trust. Just wait and see how much his color changes after he wins the election. But whatever, the protesters realize how noble of a man Yoshimasa is and become concerned for him upon seeing that he is bleeding from his head. Everyone in the crowd claps for the kind-hearted politician and hopes for his soonest recovery. The emergency ambulance arrives to take Yoshimasa to immediate care, and as he is about to get it, he tells Yoko to go back to the office. As the ambulance takes him away, the brainwashed crowd continues to cheer for him. Meanwhile, inside the ambulance, Yoshimasa drops his act of being hurt and reveals that he actually didn't bleed from his head, but rather that everything was a ploy to gain the maximum trust of the crowd, including the falling sound box and the protesters. Yoshimasa learns from his subordinate Blue that his popularity has gone off the charts, so he begins to celebrate his victory right away. Taiyou, on the other hand, has been hiding under his bed and now becomes certain of the fact that Yoshimasa is purely evil. Later at the office, Taiyou begins looking at all of Yoshimasa's files, but fails to find any clue about his crimes. Things start to get even harder for Taiyou as Yoshimasa begins to erase all of the corrupt members from his political party to avoid any future complications. Still, Taiyou remains vigilant and continues to watch over the creepy old dudes all day, who only danced with his subordinates all day. Suddenly, Taiyou realizes that the dumb dance is not random at all, but actually a secret Morse code technique that allows Yoshimasa to communicate with his subordinate without a trace. Taiyou deciphers their conversation and finally manages to learn about Yoshimasa's bombing plan. The next day, Yoshimasa meets with the deputy prime minister, whom he while dancing reveals through Morse code to be his enemy, so he wants to get rid of the deputy prime minister along with all of his co-workers during this meeting by planting a bomb underneath the stage. However, when Yoshimasa suppresses the button to blast the bomb, it explodes in a nearby fountain instead. Taiyou reveals that it was his doing as he moved the bomb there because he didn't have enough time to disable it. Yoshimasa realizes that Taiyou is the traitor here and also reveals that Yoko here is none other than Taiyou from the Yozakura family spies. He points a gun at Taiyou, revealing that he planted another bomb at the place, and as he blasts this bomb, he shoots Taiyou in the head at the same time. However, the bomb doesn't affect anyone because Taiyou has made all of the people there wear shock-resistant jackets beforehand, not only that he has evaded Yoshimasa's shot as well. Sui, who has also been hiding amongst the shadows all this time, reveals himself to assist Taiyou and skillfully destroys all of the weapons of Yoshimasa's subordinates. Now that they have all the intelligence they need, Sui uses his signature move on the politician, strips him of his clothes, and arrests him for his crimes. With this, Taiyou's mission comes to a success, but it is not done yet, as Taiyou needs to escort the evil politician back to prison. While on their way, the evil politician makes a big reveal to Taiyou, telling him that his parents' and his siblings' deaths weren't just an accident and that someone was the puppeteer behind everything. That brings the episode to an end. Thanks for watching. Want next part? Subscribe the channel and turn on notification bell.